Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Astris recommendation from Auntie in the comments of last time. I really wanted to hear more from this, so I decided to double back to the Astris video and see if there was any highly rated ones to get to, and this comment had quite a few likes on it. And this song is another one that Obadiah Brown Beach has written, so I guess with all that said and out of the way, let's go! Ooh, okay. Much more atmospheric synth. Got those like punchy tribal drums, one of my personal favorites. A lot of attack on those drums. Ooh. I like that really muffled snare. It feels like it's getting drowned out by everything else. Ooh, I really like the power on that. That was a good build. The synth work on this is very clean. As if I expected anything else from Obi. Finding it hard to pick which rhythm I want to follow. Do I like want to vibe with the synth, or do I want to like with the drums, you know? That like echoed clap that snare sample has is really neat doubling on that texture. I like it. Just a lot of reverb on it. And there it is. I knew this one was shorter, but man, I didn't want it to be. Before I get into this song, I realized I didn't really mention anything about Autobesser, which I did know about. I was told from David Lynn about that one and its existence and what it was before even reacting to the other version of it. But I figured since I'd heard the one version, hearing the other language wouldn't really do too much for me, at least as far as the musicality goes. I'm sure it sounds cool. As far as the actual like structure and everything I would actually focus on, it really didn't change much, so I was like, I'll just do a different song entirely instead of doing, Autobesser on top of Odorbis, so because it just didn't feel like I needed to get to it. But just as I kind of expected with this song, a lot of big open space. After hearing Odorbis, I was like, okay, I can kind of feel that this is the general vibe that it's going for, especially knowing that that is effectively the overall theme of this game. So I knew going into this one that I'd probably get something similar, pretty synth heavy, very wide. There was just a lot of room and a lot of synth work. And I've always had that little part of me that just loves hearing synth work and hearing people utilize it in such unique and varied ways, because it's so flexible. Synths are basically an endless chasm of availability in the music world. You can do whatever you want with them. You can make them sound whatever way. You can make drums out of synths if you process them enough. So I love hearing the way that synths are made into different sounds and built on top of each other to create some really creative tones. And with this one, there was just a lot of the more standard synth kind of just dancing, just fiddling around, a little bit of that like arpeggiation kind of just floating in the space, taking up that room, really covering all the bases, so there wasn't any dead space that wasn't intended fully, like that one spot where it had that punch back into the chorus section, if you want to call it that, near the half. But I especially, of course, with my bias, loved the way that the drums were handled in this one. one. I've always loved that like big tribal echoey, just a lot of reverb on it kind of tribal drum. And the snares in this were really neat too, because with that reverb on it, it sounded like they were being hit in the middle of a huge auditorium. It had a lot of that space being taken up as well. Something that should usually and traditionally be a little bit more like tight, snappy, and with a lot of attack to make a quick point in the rhythm is left out there with a little bit of reverb in order to make it feel that much bigger with everything else around it. Just, yeah, I love it. It's so cool. I love space music in general. It's neat. I am such a dork, but I love the sound of space. Like, these sort of aggressive synth heavy sounds have always felt a little bit more alien to me, something that feels a little bit larger than life than even the biggest orchestra ever could. So while there's still some great songs out there that are written with a full orchestra and it has that same energy, this sort of thing is much more what I kind of perceive space to sound like. And I think that has to do with how synths largely make you feel a little bit more like you're in a mystery. Like, there's no answer here. Things are moving around constantly. It doesn't land and like sit on any one specific spot, especially with these like very dancey sort of synths that are constantly moving around in subdivisions around your head. And you're just like, are we ever going to settle? And it's like, that's the question you're asking yourself while you're hearing it. And it just makes you feel like there is no ground to stand on. So that, I think, is why it feels so space-like to me. Whereas a lot of orchestrated stuff has a lot more of those grounding, rooted boundaries where you're only able to make big impacts hard, but you can only do them on the floor. You can't dance up and fly away. Obviously, you can have some beautiful music that makes you feel like you're flying. That's a whole separate thing as far as I'm concerned. For example, the first flight from How to Train Your Dragon, one of, in my opinion, the best orchestrated themes ever. I love it. But flying and space are, while very akin to each other, definitely not the same thing. So I think that this whole sound, this whole design is so much cooler. And I love hearing the various ways that different composers and arrangers tackle that sort of concept, because at the end of the day, space doesn't have a sound. It is just a general construct of what might it sound like. So you're able to allow yourself that fantastical edge and really mess with whatever you want to. And hearing that myriad of variability in there is one of my favorite things about music, as we all know. But I think that's about all the yapping I can do for this one. Another great song. Thank you very much for recommending this one. I have a feeling that if all of them are like this, I'm going to continue to geek out about every single song I'm recommended. So great job, Obi, on this song. Fantastic work as usual. And if anyone has any other songs from this game that they want me to get to, or from any other properties, by all means, leave it down in the comments below and I will do my best to get to it. And other than that, if you like this video and like hearing me yap about this sort of thing and you want to see more, you know how to follow me and support me and all that, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!